Logechi Abbey with Enterprise Express Tax. Today we're talking about the education tax credits. Um, there are two types of education tax credits. The first one that we're going to expand on is called the AOTC, the American Opportunity Tax Credit. All right. This credit is available if you attend, for instance, a 3 or 4 year college, and you have to have a tax form that's called a 1098T. Uh, Typically, the school that you attended will email you that tax form prior to January 31st of the tax year that you're filing. But most times, when you don't have it, or when my clients come in and they don't have it, I usually tell them to go onto the school's website and download the 1098T. There are a couple of columns there, but what you really want to look for is the top column that shows the tuition paid. There's a little bit of a caveat here though, because the tuition is really what generates the credit. However, if you're in a position where you got a scholarship, for instance, or a grant that exceeds the tuition paid, then it's quite possible that you won't get much back in terms of a credit. And so a lot of times when people bring me a 1098T and they say, I want to get the education credit, well, sure, you've got the documentation, but if you did get a scholarship or a grant that exceeds the tuition that was paid out of pocket, then it's very likely that you're not going to get much of a credit, if any. All right. So we talked about the AOTC, American Opportunity Tax Credit. There's also the Lifetime Learning Tax Credit. This is another portion of the education credit. Now, bear in mind, you cannot take the two at the same time. You can't take the American Opportunity Tax Credit and the Lifetime Learning Credit at the same time. You either have to take one or the other. Typically, you're going to qualify for one or the other. Now, let's talk about the Lifetime Learning Credit. The Lifetime Learning Credit is available, for instance, if it's not a 4 year college, but let's say you do some continuing education courses, all right? You may be eligible for the lifetime learning tax credit. Now, in order to qualify, what you'll need to provide to your taxpayer would be the name and the address of the school, all right? And also the employer identification number of the school. Remember that with the lifetime learning credit, it's quite possible that you're not going to get a 1098T form issued. So typically what you have to provide is if you had to pay tuition or if you had to buy books and things like that, you'll have to provide that information to your tax preparer. All right. So that's it. We've talked about the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and we've also talked about the Lifetime Learning Credit. Now, there's a couple of things that I probably you need to be aware of as well. The education credits can phase out with your income, all right? So what that means is there are income limits. If you are making a higher limit for income, and also depends on your filing status as well. If you're single, the income limit will be different. I'm not going to go into what the limits are now, but just to let you guys know that if you're making a higher income, it's very possible that you will not qualify for any of these education credits. So just to let you guys know that it is income based. All right. The other thing that you guys need to know as well is that with credits, you have refundable credits and you have non-refundable credits. You also have partially refundable credits. All right. The American Opportunity Education Credit is partially refundable. Um, Obviously, you probably want to know how much are these credits. Well, the American Education Credit does give up to $2,500 per student, while the Lifetime Learning Credit does give up to $2,000 per tax return for limited years of post-secondary education. So that's the Lifetime Learning Credit. The American Opportunity Credit is partially refundable. And for 4 years of, well, up to 4 years of undergraduate study, it will offer up to $2,500 per student. So these are pretty, good credits if you qualify for them. The key thing, guys, is this. You want to make sure that if you're claiming those credits, remember that after 4 years, you will no longer be eligible to claim the American Opportunity Credit. It's limited to 4 years of undergraduate study. Um, and you need to make sure that you do not exceed that time frame. All right. In some cases, graduate study is also applies as well. All right. But for the lifetime learning credit, it is unlimited as long as you're in some kind of course school, um, and you're paying tuition and you have the name of the organization. That's fine. You probably will still qualify for the lifetime learning credit. All right, one last thing that we're going to talk about. Um, 100% of the first 2,000 of qualified expenses is eligible, plus 25% of the next 2,000. Okay. In terms of refundability, 40% up to $1,000 is refundable if the credit exceeds taxes owed. All right. Eligibility. Who's eligible? Well, the first 4 years of college, all right, for the American Opportunity Tax Credit, you must be pursuing a degree and at least half-time enrollment. All right, so these are the qualifying factors. Now, for the lifetime learning credit, here are the qualifying factors. The maximum benefit is up to $2,000 per tax return, not per student, per tax return. That's important. And the calculation is that 20% of the first 10,000 of qualified expenses is eligible, is what you can qualify for. Refundability. This is a non-refundable credit, meaning that it cannot reduce your tax below zero. Okay. And who's eligible? Well, undergraduate, graduate, or professional degree courses, including in some cases non-degree courses to acquire or improve job skills. So um, these credits give a broad range within which people can fall in. And I always tell people, I say it's very likely that if you are doing some kind of education, paid education, that you're going to fall into one of these two categories, meaning either the American Opportunity Tax Credit or the lifetime learning credit. The thing to watch out for with the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and I want to emphasize this because some people have gotten, caught with this, is that there is a limit. All right. If you've been taking it for the last 2 years or 3 years, you want to check with your tax preparer, check the records, see how long you've been taking it for, so you know when to stop taking it so that you don't get a letter from the IRS saying, hey, you got this credit, you've already exceeded the amount of years that you are eligible to take this credit, and now you need to pay back the credit with penalties and interest. So that's not a place that you want to be. So make sure you have your records. All right. So talking about education credits, I hope this is helpful. My name is Michael Ogechi Abbey with Enterprise Express Tax Service, signing out. Bye.